everyone. Welcome to the RV Atlas. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are the hosts of the RV Atlas podcast, writers at thervatlas.com, and we are also the authors of See You at the Campground, a guide to discovering community, connection, and a happier family in the great outdoors.
You said the whole subtitle.
The whole thing. Did you hear it? Just rolled right off the tongue.
There's the possibility this is the greatest book that's ever been written about camping.
All right. Now, we today want to talk to you about whether or not you should buy a pop-up camper. And we happen to know that's a burning question for a lot of folks out there because it is the #1 search term that brings people to our website day after day.
I think we've had hundreds of thousands of hits on that one.
Everybody says, should I buy a pop-up camper? And they find us.
People don't know. People don't know.
But we do, and that's what we're going to help you with today, okay? So, unfortunately, we're going to start off by making things more complicated.
Yeah, so the answer, should I buy a pop-up camper? The answer is yes. And
no.
The answer is no.
All right, what do we mean by that? Yes, you should buy a pop-up camper as an entry into the RV lifestyle.
It's a great starting point as a family or as a couple if you want to try out RVing, but you don't want to put too much skin in the game.
Yeah, you're not sure if you're going to like it. You don't want to spend
too much. It's like a test. It's like a test run buying a pop-up camper.
It is. And you know what's great? It can be a test run without spending a lot of money because you should buy a used pop-up camper.
That was our big life lesson, is that we bought a really expensive brand new pop-up camper, $12,500. I cringe to say it.
Don't say it.
And we say it was our best and worst decision ever because we fell in love with RVing. We fell in love with taking camping trips with our kids. But we realized really quickly we actually didn't love the pop-up camper. We wanted something different. And then after 2 years, we sold the pop-up camper and it had depreciated so much we were underwater. Mm-hmm. So we sold it for like $4,000 less than we bought it for after only 2 years.
You really had to just roll out
I had
all
to go
these
there.
terrible
And we had a loan on the
stats.
pop-up camper. So we were underwater. And since then we've been preaching to people, don't buy the expensive brand new pop-up camper because depreciation on RVs is really tough at the beginning. Then it can stabilize a bit. So we always recommend buying a used pop-up camper.
So somebody that was a lot smarter than us, our friend Joe, bought a used pop-up camper off the side of the road for $800?
$800 or $850. He bought a used pop-up camper. It was like 20 years old. He had it for 2 years too. And then
decided he loved RVing just like we did.
And then he sold it for $1,000.
Yeah.
So what happens is if you buy a lower cost pop-up camper, one that's like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, often the price stabilizes and you can sell it for basically what you bought it for.
Yes.
So we know so many people that have bought kind of cheaper pop-up campers, they keep them for a couple years and they don't take any financial hit.
Right. So right off the bat, there's the quick answer to your question. Yes, you should buy a pop-up camper to introduce yourself to the RV lifestyle, but you really shouldn't spend a lot of money on it. Keep your costs low and be ready to resell it when you decide, A, you don't like camping at all, you're never going to camp again.
That's not going to happen.
No. Or B, you do want to camp all the time and you really want to upgrade to maybe something that's a little more comfortable.
And everyone says like, oh, I'm going to buy a pop-up camper. I'm going to keep it for 10 years and we're going to travel the country. And then so many people are like, no, I want a travel trailer.
Okay, and let's dive into why, right? We're going to
talk
about the pros and the cons. We'll start out with the pros because no matter what, even though we ditched our pop-up camper after a couple of years, in our heart of hearts, we still love the thing and we still think about it sentimentally.
She went and bought another one. We restored it.
You have to tell everything. Yeah, that's a story for another day.
So some pros. All right, let's start out positive on the pop-up camper. They're easily towed. So you can tow a pop-up camper with any half-ton pickup truck. And often you can tow it with the SUV. So a lot of different SUVs will tow a pop-up camper. Even some minivans can tow a pop-up camper. Now you got to check all your weights and check all your tow capacities, but you may already...
Don't believe somebody in your local Facebook group that told you could tow it,
or a salesperson.
Run your own numbers
but you may own a vehicle already that could tow a pop-up camper if you were to buy one. Or if for your first purchase you want to buy a travel trailer, you might be talking about an expensive truck upgrade as well.
All right, number 2, the second pro. The low profile of pop-up campers, the size makes them very easy to store, okay? Likely you can stick this thing along the side of your house. You can put it in your garage if you don't have as much stuff as we have in our garage.
The pop-up camper that Joe bought was garage kept.
Yeah.
So it is possible to store it in a garage. You don't need a big driveway. When we bought that first pop-up camper, we had a very small driveway, and the pop-up camper fit
And it
just
fits
fine.
just fine.
And it's also easy to throw a cover over in the winter. Almost everything about it is easy because the size is so small.
All right, number 3. Pop-up campers can provide a really authentic campground experience. So some people want to get a pop-up because they love tent camping already, but they don't want to like disconnect from actual camping.
Yeah, it's like you're not ready to become that full RV owner yet.
Sitting
who's
in
got
your
a
RV
flat
watching
screen
cable.
TV, you know, you're watching the news
In
at
the
night.
air conditioning.
You're still feeling young and adventurous, you know. And
You
that
want
pop-up
to open
camper.
and have the air come in.
Yeah, there's nothing like being in a pop-up camper at night with the canvas unzipped and the breezes blowing through. And it really is like it's a cousin to tent camping. Or it's a big brother to tent camping. It
more comfortable.
It
It's
almost
just
has more to
drier.
do with tent camping than it does to do with like RVing.
Yeah, it kind of sits somewhere in the middle, which is nice. And another great thing about pop-up campers is they actually offer more space for sleeping than a lot of bigger RVs, ironically enough.
That's a great point. Who did these notes?
Oh.
So
I'm going to take credit for it.
let's explain that. Like the bed ends on a pop-up camper are huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could put, not that you'd want to, you could put 4 kids on one of these beds. Then often you have a dinette that breaks down into a bed and maybe a couch as well. So a lot of pop-up campers easily could sleep 6 people, maybe cram 8 people.
Yeah.
And sometimes larger travel trailers actually have less sleeping space.
Absolutely. All right, and our last pro of pop-up campers is that they really do have all the necessities that you would look for in an RV. Many pop-ups, while offering that tent camping experience, have air conditioning. Our first one did. They have refrigerators, they have cooktops.
Porta
Many
potties.
even have porta potties right there, and wet showers, so you can sit there. And I always hated doing
Stephanie
it.
would never
I'm
take a
gonna
shower
be
in a
honest,
pop-up camper.
but you can sit there and you can shower, right? So all the basic amenities are there.
Can I go off script for 1 second? Now, if you buy a new...
I'm timing you.
So here's the thing. If you buy a new pop-up camper, you're more likely to get a lot of that stuff. But as you creep into the lower cost to use pop-up camper, you might not get all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So something to think about.
All right.
Now we're going negative.
Cons.
last.
I know. There are
Cons.
some cons. We only had our pop-up camper for 2 years, and then we upgraded
Couldn't
to a
sell
travel
it. I couldn't sell
trailer.
it fast enough.
All right. First of all, they require a lot more time to set up and break down than your average travel trailer does. So we liked to travel a lot with our pop-up camper. Sometimes we'd want to stop along the way overnight on our way down to, say, South Carolina. Setting that up and breaking it down the next day for an overnight stop became unbearable. It drove us absolutely
The first
crazy.
trip when I realized that we had to sell the pop-up camper was when we went to 4 different campgrounds in Vermont and Maine.
In like 2 weeks.
And we were setting up and breaking
Yeah.
down over and over again. And then you had days where you would have to break it down, drive to into a campground, and set it up. It felt like the entire day was packing and unpacking the pop-up camper. So as an RVer, once you decide you want to do multiple stop trips on the same vacation, a pop-up camper gets a little tough.
All right. They also require a lot of extra maintenance, all right? So there's more moving parts in a pop-up camper, ironically, than a larger RV sometimes.
You got to lift up the roof and bring the roof down.
Canvas.
So you have a lifter system that can
Yeah.
break. And you know what? They're fairly reliable lifter systems. You know, they'll last for years, but they will at some
They
point
can break.
Also, you have to have canvas maintenance,
Yeah.
and that's a huge, huge thing in a traditional travel trailer you don't have to worry about.
Basically, if everything breaks down, right, and sets back up again, then you have all these moving
Yeah.
parts, and you have more things that could go wrong with them.
Another con, okay, pop-up campers bring in more noise. So if you're in some beautiful rustic state park and it's just the sounds of nature outside, that's going to be lovely.
Lovely.
But if you're staying at a campground that's kind of off the side of a highway, you're going to hear the traffic buzz by.
Or
So
your neighbors partying.
Or your neighbors
after
partying and
you
arguing
put your
at a
twins
state
to
park.
bed at
Well,
night.
this summer,
That's the most fun.
Stephanie and I write for Trailer Life magazine, and this summer we tested a hybrid, which has those canvas bed ends, and I could hear the traffic whizzing by out from the highway.
And you had backflashes to pop-up
Yeah.
days.
So if you want to, if you want to go to all different types of campgrounds, just be you're going to be really sensitive to road noise in a pop-up camper or those loud partying people.
Yes, which we don't know anything about. We're too old and dull and boring for that. All right, now lastly, pop-up campers don't allow you to camp in all seasons.
Unless you're like a crazy prepper guy.
Okay, we're going to assume most of you aren't crazy preppers and you don't want to be out there in 20-degree weather freezing to death. So we actually wound up without propane. Great parents of the year.
27-degree night.
Okay, and we ran out of propane and we were freezing
And we had
with
2
our
little
kids.
baby boys in the pop-up.
Parents of the Year, okay? It was not a fun experience. Whereas in our travel trailer now, we can camp in sub-like temperatures. We've camped in 20-degree temperatures.
We have camped every month of the year in our toy
and
hauler.
We're so warm and toasty and comfortable.
In the Northeast, if you own a pop-up camper, your season's going to end around October 31st, and it's going to start getting chilly. Now, different parts of the country are going to be different. If you're in a warm part of the country, you can take that issue off the table.
So, bottom line, pop-up campers are a fantastic way to enter into the RV lifestyle, to dip your toes in to see if you like it. However, we really encourage you not to spend too much money on it because oftentimes people who love camping want to upgrade very quickly, and we don't want you to lose money.
You could fall into that RV debt spiral, where if you're underwater on your first RV loan, then you have to wrap that money into the next loan, and all of a sudden you're accumulating debt.
RV
debt spiral.
Okay, so that's our official term for it now.
If possible, find a nice used pop-up camper for maybe $1,000 to $4,000, maybe $5,000. And if you can, pay cash for it, okay? We weren't in that position when we started. We took out a loan. And then I think that you'll do fine with it, and you'll be able to sell it later for about the same price, particularly if you keep it nice and clean.
All right. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Jeremy.
We are the hosts of the RV Atlas podcast, and we are writers over at thervatlas.com. You can pick up a copy of our book, See at the Campground, wherever you like to buy your books.
And you can follow our crazy camping adventures at Jeremy and Stephanie on Instagram. And this book's a masterpiece. You're going to want to buy this.
All right. See you later, guys.
See you at the campground.